Hello all, thank you for watching my premiere. This is the third year I'm doing this, and I'm ever so grateful for Crashly for doing this for all of you and for us, the content creators that are allowed to entertain you for a few days. So, I am going to read you some fairy tales by the Danish author Hans Christian Andersen, and after that, I will be answering some Christmas tag questions, and I hope you will enjoy this, at least the fairy tales. Maybe my tag questions answering might not be so interesting, but anyway, let me know how you are in the comments, and I will be here to chat with you all. Okay, see you. Bye, and thank you for watching. Please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, and if you aren't already subscribed, I would really appreciate it if you would consider it. And yeah, bye. I should have the birds building their nest on my boards, and when the wind blew, I should bow with steadily dignity, like my tall companions. The tree was so discontented that it took no pleasure in the warm sunshine, the birds, or the rosy clouds that floated over it morning and evening. Sometimes in winter, when the snow lay white and glittering on the ground, a hare would come springing along and jump right over the little tree, and then how mortified it would feel. 2 winters passed, and when the third arrived, the tree had grown so tall that the hares was obliged to run round it. Yet it remained unsatisfied, and would exclaim, "Oh, if I could but keep on growing tall and old, there is nothing else worth caring for in the world." In the autumn, as usual, the woodcutter came and cut down several of the tallest trees, and the young fir tree, which was now grown to its full height, shuddered as the noble trees fell to the earth with a crash. After the branches were lopped off, the trunk looked so slender and bare that they could barely be recognized. Then they were placed upon wagons and drawn by horses out of the forest. Where are they going? What would become of them? The young fir tree wished very much to know. So, in the spring, when the swallows and the storks came, it asked, "Do you know where those trees were taking? Did you meet them?" The swallows knew nothing, but the stork, after a little reflection, nodded its head and said, "Yes, I think I do. I met several new ships when I flew from Egypt, and they had fine masts that smelt like fur. I think these must have been the trees. I assure you they were stately, very stately." "Oh, how I wish I was tall enough to get on the sea," said the fir tree. "What is the sea, and what does it look like?" "It would take too much time to explain," said the stork, flying quickly away. "Rejoice in thy youth," said the sunbeam. "Rejoice in thy fresh growth and the young life that is in thee." And the wind kissed the tree, and the dew watered it with tears, but the fir tree regarded them not. Christmas time drew near, and many young trees were cut down, some even smaller and younger than the fir tree, who enjoyed neither rest nor peace with longing to leave its forest home. These young trees, which were chosen for its beauty, kept their branches and were also led on wagons and drawn by horses out of the forest. "Where are they going?" asked the fir tree. "They are not taller than I am. Indeed, one is much less, and why are their branches not cut off? Where are they going?" We know," sang the sparrows. "We have looked in at the windows at the houses in the town, and we know what is done with them. They are dressed up in the most splendid manner. We have seen them standing in the middle of a warm room and adorned with all sorts of beautiful things, honey cakes, gilded apples, playthings, and many hundreds of wax tapers." "And then?" asked the fir tree, trembling through all its branches. "And then what happens?" "We did not see any more," said the sparrows, "but this was enough for us." "I wonder whether anything so brilliant will ever happen to me," thought the fir tree. "It would be much better than crossing the sea. I long for it, almost with pain. Oh, when will Christmas be here? I am now as tall as and well grown as those which were taken away last year. Oh, that I were now laid on the wagon, or standing in the warm room with all that brightness and splendor around me. Something better and more beautiful is to come after, or the trees would not be so decked out. Yes, what follows will be grander and more splendid. What can it be? I am very with longing. I scarcely know how I feel. Rejoice with us, said the air and the sunlight. Enjoy thine own bright life in the fresh air. But the tree would not rejoice, though it grew taller every day, and winter and summer its dark green foliage might be seen in the forest, while passers-by would say, "What a beautiful tree!" A short time before Christmas, the discontented fir tree was the first to fall. As the axe cut through the stem and divided the pits, the tree fell with a groan to the earth. Conscious of pain and faintness, and forgetting all its anticipations of happiness in sorrow at leaving its home in the forest, it knew that it should never again see its dear old companions, the trees, nor the little bushes or many-colored flowers that had grown by its side, perhaps not even the birds. Neither was the journey at all pleasant. The tree first recovered itself while being unpacked in the courtyard of a house with several other trees, and it heard a man say, "We only want one, and this is the prettiest." Then came two servants in the grand delivery and carried the fir tree into a large and beautiful apartment. On the walls hung pictures, and near the great stove stood great china vases with lions on the lids. There were rocking chairs, silken sofas, large tables covered with pictures, books, and playthings worth a great deal of money. At least, the children said so. Then the fir tree was placed in a large tub full of sand, but great bays hung all around it, so that no one could see it was a tub. And it stood on a very handsome carpet. How the fir tree trembled! What was going to happen to him now? Some young ladies came, and the servants helped them to adorn the tree. On one branch they hung a little bag cut out of colored paper, and each bag was filled with sweetmeats. From other branches hung gilded apples and walnuts, as if they had grown there. And above and all round were hundreds of red, blue, and white tapers, which were fastened on the branches. Dolls, exactly like real babies, were placed under the green leaves. The tree had never seen such things before, and at the very top was fastened a glittering star made of tinsel. Ah, it was very beautiful. This evening, they all exclaimed, how bright it will be. Oh, that the evening will come, thought the tree, and the tapers lighted. Then I shall know what else is going to happen. Will the trees of the forest come to see me? I wonder if the sparrows will peep in at the windows as they fly. Shall I grow faster here, or keep on all these ornaments summer and winter? But guessing was of very little use. It makes his bark ache, and his pain is as bad as for a slender fir tree as a headache is for us. At last the tapers were lighted, and then what a glistening blaze of light the tree presented. It trembled so with joy in all its branches that one of the candles fell among the green leaves and burned some of them. "Help! Help!" exclaimed the young ladies, but there was no danger, for they quickly extinguished the fire. After this, the tree tried not to tremble at all, though the fire frightened him. He was so anxious not to hurt any of the brilliant ornaments, even while their brilliance dazzled him. And now the folding doors were thrown open, and a troop of children rushed in as if they intended to upset the tree. They were followed more silently by their elders. For a moment the little ones stood silent with astonishment, and then they shouted for joy till the room rang, and they danced merrily round the tree, while one present after another was taken from it. What are they doing? What would happen next? Thought the fir. At last the candles burnt down to the branches and were put out. Then the children received permission to plunder the tree. Oh, how they rustled upon it, till the branches cracked, and had it not been fastened with the glittering star to the ceiling, it must have been thrown down. The children then danced about it with their pretty toys, and no one noticed the tree, except the children's maid, who came and peeped along the branches to see if an apple or fig had been forgotten. "A story! A story!" cried the children, pulling a little fat man toward the tree. "Now we shall be in the green shade," said the man, as he seated himself under it. "And the tree will have the pleasure of hearing also, but I shall only relate one story. What shall it be, Evade Evade or Humpty Dumpty, who fell downstairs but soon got up again, and at last married a princess?" "Evade Evade," cried some. "Humpty Dumpty," cried others, and there was a fine shouting and crying out. But the fir tree remained quite still and thought to himself, "Shall I have anything to do with all this?" But he had already amused them too as much as they wished. Then the old man told them the story of Humpty Dumpty, how he fell downstairs and was raised up again and married a princess. And the children clapped their hands and cried, "Tell another, tell another," for they wanted to hear the story of Evade Avad, but they had only had Humpty Dumpty. After this, the fir tree became quite silent and thoughtful. Never had the birds in the forest told such tales as Humpty Dumpty, who fell down the stairs and yet married a princess. Ah, yes, so it happens in the world, thought the fir tree. He believed it all, because it was related by such a nice man. Ah, well, he thought, who knows? Perhaps I may fall down too and marry a princess. And he looked forward joyfully to the next evening, expected to be again decked out with lights and playthings, golden fruit. "Tomorrow I will not tremble," thought he. "I will enjoy all my splendor, and I shall hear the story of Humpty Dumpty again, and perhaps Evade Evade." And the tree remained quiet and thoughtful all night. In the morning the servants and the housemaid came in. "Now," thought the fir, "all my splendor is going to begin again." But they dragged him out of the room and upstairs to the garret and threw him on the floor in a dark corner where no daylight shone, and where they left him. "What does this mean?" thought the tree. "What am I to do here? I can hear nothing in a place like this." And he had time enough to think, for days and nights passed and no one came near him. And when at last somebody did come, it was only to put away large boxes in a corner. So the tree was completely hidden from sight, as if it had never existed. "It is winter now," thought the tree. "The ground is hard and covered with snow, so that people cannot plant me. I shall be sheltered here, I dare say, until spring comes. How thoughtful and kind everyone is to me. Still, I wish this place were not so dark, as well as lonely, with not even a little hare to look at. How pleasant it was out in the forest while the snow lay on the ground, when the hare would come run by, yes, and jump over me, although I did not like it then. Oh, it is terrible lonely here." "Squeak, squeak," said a little mouse, creeping cautiously toward the tree. Then came another, and they both sniffed at the fir tree and crept between the branches. "Oh, it is very cold," said the little mouse, "or else we should be so comfortable here, shouldn't we, you old fir tree?" "I am not old," said the fir tree. "There are many who are older than I am." "Where do you come from, and what do you know?" asked the mice, who were full of curiosity. "Have you seen the most beautiful places in the world, and can you tell us all about them? And have you been in the storeroom where cheeses lie on the shelf and hams hang from the ceiling? One can run about a tallow candles there and go in thin and come out fat." "I know nothing of that place," said the fir tree, "but I know the woods where the sun shines and the bird sings." And then the tree told the little mice about its youth. They had never heard such an account in their lives, and after they had listened to it attentively, they said, "What a number of things you've seen! You must have been very happy." "Happy!" exclaimed the fir tree, and then as he reflected upon what he had been telling them, he said, Ah, yes. After all, those were happy days. But when he went on and related all about Christmas Eve and how he had been dressed up with cakes and lights, the mice said, "How happy you must have been, you old fir tree." "I am not old at all," replied the tree. "I only came from the forest this winter. I am now checked in my growth." "What splendid story you can relate," said the little mice. And the next night 4 other mice came with them to hear what the tree had to tell. The more he talked, the more he remembered. And then he thought to himself, "Those were happy days, but they may come again. Humpty Dumpty fell downstairs, and yet he married the princess. Perhaps I may marry a princess too." And the fir tree thought of the pretty little birch tree that grew in the forest, which to him was a real beautiful princess. "Who is Humpty Dumpty?" asked the little mice, and then the tree related this whole story. He could remember every single word, and the little mice were so delighted with it that they were ready to jump on the top of the tree. The next night a great many more mice made the appearance, and on Sunday 2 rats came with them. But they said it was not a pretty story at all, and the little mice were very sorry, for it made them also think less of it. "Do you know only one story?" asked the rats. "Only one," replied the fir tree. "I heard it on the happiest evening of my life, but I did not know that I was so happy at the time." "We think it's a very miserable story," said the rats. "Don't you know any story about bacon or tallow in the storeroom?" "No," replied the tree. "Many thanks to you then," replied the rats, and they marched off. The little mice also kept away after this, and the tree sighed and said, "It was very pleasant when the merry little mice sat round me and listened while I talked. Now that is all past too. However, I shall consider myself happy when someone comes and takes me out of this place." But would this ever happen? Yes. One morning people came to clear out the garret. The boxes were packed away, and the tree was pulled out of its corner and thrown roughly on the garret floor. Then the servants dragged it out upon the staircase where the daylight shone. "Now life is beginning again," said the tree, rejoicing in the sunshine and fresh air. Then it was carried downstairs and taken into the courtyard so quickly that it forgot to think of itself and could only look about. There was so much to be seen. The court was close to a garden where everything looked blooming. Fresh and fragrant roses hung over the little palings. The linden trees were in blossom, while the swallows flew here and there, crying, "Twit, twit, 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 my mate is coming." But it was not the fir tree they meant. "Now I shall live," cried the tree, joyfully spreading out its branches. But alas, they were all withered and yellow, and it lay in a corner amongst weeds and nettles. The star of gold paper still stuck in the top of the tree and glittered in the sunshine. In the same courtyard 2 of the merry children were playing, who had danced around the tree at Christmas and had been so happy. The youngest saw the gilded star and ran and pulled it off the tree. "Look what is sticking to the ugly old fir tree," said the child, threading on the branches till they cracked under his boots. And the tree saw all the fresh bright flowers in the garden, and then looked at itself and wished it had remained in the dark corner of the garret. It thought of its fresh youth in the forest, of the merry Christmas evening, and of the little mice who had listened to the story of Humpty Dumpty. "Past, past," said the old tree. "Oh, had I but enjoyed myself while I could have done so. But now it's too late." Then a lad came and chopped the trees into small pieces till a large bundle lay in a heap on the ground. The pieces were placed in a fire under the copper, and they quickly blazed up brightly, while the tree sighed so deeply that each sigh was like a pistol shot. Then the children who were at play came and seated themselves in front of the fire and looked at it and cried, "Pop, pop." But at each puff, which was a deep sigh, the tree was thinking of a summer day in the forest, and of Christmas evening, and of Humpty Dumpty, the only story it had ever heard or knew how to relate, till at last it was consumed. The boys still played in the garden, and the youngest was a golden star on his breast, with which the tree had been adorned during the happiest evening of its existence. Now all was past, the tree's life was past, and the story also, for all stories must come to an end at last. The little match girl. It was terribly cold and nearly dark on the last evening of the old year, and the snow was falling fast. In the cold and the darkness, a poor little girl with bare head and naked feet roamed through the streets. It is true, she had on a pair of slippers when she left home, but they were not of much use. They were very large, so large indeed that they had belonged to her mother, and the poor little creature had lost them in running across the street to avoid two carriages that were rolling along at a terrible rate. One of the slippers she could not find, and a boy seized upon the other and ran away with it, saying that he could use it as a cradle when he had children of his own. So the little girl went on with her little naked feet, which were quite red and blue with the cold. In an old apron she carried a number of matches and had a bundle of them in her hands. No one had bought anything of her the whole day, nor had anyone given her even a penny. Shivering with the cold and hunger, she crept along. Poor little child, she looked a picture of misery. The snowflakes fell on her long fair hair, which hung in curls on her shoulders, but she regarded them not. Lights were shining from every window, and there was a savory smell of roast goose, for it was New Year's Eve. Yes, she remembered that. In a corner between two houses, one of which projected beyond the other, she sank down and huddled herself together. She had drawn her little feet under her, but she could not keep off the cold, and she dared not go home, for she had sold no matches and could not take home even a penny of money. Her father would certainly beat her. Besides, it was almost as cold at home as here, for they had only the roof to cover them, through which the wind howled, although the largest holes had been stopped up with straw and rags. Her little hands were almost frozen with the cold. Ah, perhaps a burning match might be some good, if she could draw it from the bundle and strike it against the wall, just to warm her fingers. She drew one out. Scratch! How it sputtered as it burned. It gave a warm, bright light, like a little candle. As she held her hand over it, it was really a wonderful light. It seemed to the little girl that she was sitting by a large iron stove with polished brass feet and a brass ornament. How the fire burned and seemed so beautifully warm that the child stretched out her feet as if to warm them, when, lo, the flame of the match went out. The stove vanished, and she had only the remains of the half-burnt match in her hand. She rubbed another match on the wall. It burst into a flame, and where its light fell upon the wall, it became as transparent as a veil, and she could see into the room. The table was covered with a snowy white tablecloth, on which stood a splendid dinner service, and a streaming roast goose stuffed with apples and dried plums. And what was still more wonderful, the goose jumped down from the dish and waddled across the floor with a knife and fork in its breast to the little girl. Then the match went out, and there remained nothing but the thick, damp, cold wall before her. She lighted another match, and then she found herself sitting under a beautiful Christmas tree. It was larger and more beautifully decorated than the one which she had seen through the glass door at the rich merchant's. Thousands of tapers were burning upon the green branches, and colored pictures, like those she had seen in the show windows, looked down upon it all. The little girl stretched out her hands toward them, and the match went out. The Christmas lights rose higher and higher till they looked at her like the stars in the sky. Then she saw a star fall, leaving behind it a bright streak of fire. Someone is dying, thought the little girl, for her old grandmother, the only one who had ever loved her, and who was now dead, had told her that when a star falls, a soul was going up to God. She again rubbed a match on the wall, and the light shone around her. In the brightness stood her old grandmother, clear and shining, yet mild and loving in her appearance. "Grandmother!" cried the little one, "oh, take me with you. I know you will go away when the match burns out. You will vanish like the warm stove, the roast goose, and the large glorious Christmas tree." And she made haste of light the whole bundle of matches, for she wished to keep her grandmother here. And the matches glowed with a light that was brighter than the noonday, and her grandmother had never appeared so large or so beautiful. She took the little girl in her arms, and they both flew upwards in brightness and joy far above the earth, where there was neither cold nor hunger nor pain, for they were with God. In the dawn of morning there lay the poor little one, with pale cheeks and a smiling mouth, leaning against the wall. She had been frozen to death on the last evening of the year, and the New Year's sun rose and shone upon the little corpse. The child sat still in the stiffness of death, holding the matches in her hand, one bundle of which was burned. She tried to warm herself, said some. No one imagined what beautiful things she had seen, nor into what glory she had entered with her grandmother on New Year's Day. The Steadfast Tin Soldier. There was once 25 tin soldiers who were all brothers, for they had been made out of the same old tin spoon. They shouldered arms and looked straight before them, and wore a splendid uniform, red and blue. The first thing in the world they ever heard were the words "tin soldiers," uttered by a little boy who clapped his hands with delight when the lid of the box in which they lay was taken off. They were given him for a birthday present, and he stood at the table to set them up. The soldiers were all exactly alike, excepting one who had only one leg. He had been left to the last, and then there was not enough of the melted tin to finish him, so they made him stand firmly on one leg, and this caused him to be very remarkable. The table on which the tin soldier stood was covered with other playthings, but the most attractive to the eyes was a pretty little paper castle. Through the small windows the rooms could be seen. In front of the castle a number of little trees surrounded a piece of looking glass which was intended to represent a transparent lake. Swans made of wax swam on the lake and were reflected in it. All this was very pretty, but the prettiest of all was a tiny little lady who stood at the open door of the castle. She also was made of paper, and she wore a dress of clear muslin with a narrow blue ribbon over her shoulders, just like a scarf. In front of these was fixed a glittering tinsel rose as large as her whole face. The little lady was a dancer, and she stretched out both her arms and raised one of her legs so high that the tin soldier could not see it at all, and he thought that she, like himself, had only one leg. "That is the wife for me," he thought, "but she is too grand and live in a castle, while I have only one box to live in. 25 of us all together, that is no place for her. Still, I must try and make her acquaintance." Then he laid himself at full length on the table behind a snuff-box that stood upon it, so that he could peep at the little delicate lady, who continued to stand on one leg without losing her balance. When evening came, the other tin soldiers were all placed in the box, and the people of the house went to bed. Then the playthings began to have their own games together, to pay visits, to have sham fights, and to give balls. The tin soldiers rattled in the box. They wanted to get out and join the amusements, but they could not open the lid. The nutcrackers played a leapfrog, and the pencils jumped about the table. There was such a noise that the canary woke up and began to talk, and in poetry too. Only the tin soldier and the dancer remained in their places. She stood on tiptoe with her legs stretched out as firmly as he did on the one leg. He never took his eye from her for even a moment. The clock struck 12, and with a bounce up sprang the lid of the snuff box. But instead of a snuff, there jumped up a little black goblin, for the snuff box was a toy puzzle. "Tin soldier," said the goblin, "don't wish for what does not belong to you." But the tin soldier pretended not to hear. "Very well, wait till tomorrow then," said the goblin. When the children came in the next morning, they placed the tin soldier in the window. Now, whether it was the goblin who did it or the draught is not known, but the window flew open and out fell the tin soldier, heels over head, from the third story into the street beneath. It was a terrible fall, for he came head downwards, his helmet and his bayonet stuck in between the flagstones, and his one leg up in the air. The servant maid and the little boy went downstairs directly to look for him, but he was nowhere to be seen, although once they nearly trod on him. If he had called out, "Here I am," it would have been all right, but he was too proud to cry out for help while he wore a uniform. Presently it began to rain, and the drops fell faster and faster till there was a heavy shower. When it was over, two boys happened to pass by, and one of them said, "Look, here is a tin soldier. He ought to have a boat to sail in." So they made a boat out of newspaper and placed the tin soldier in it, and sent him sailing down the gutter, while the two boys ran by the side of it and clapped their hands. Good gracious, what large waves arose in that gutter, and how fast the stream rolled on! For the rain had been very heavy. The paper boat rocked up and down and turned itself round sometimes so quickly that the tin soldier trembled, yet he remained firm. His countenance did not change. He looked straight before him and shouldered his musket. Suddenly the boat shot under a bridge which formed a part of a drain, and then it was dark as in the tin soldier's box. "Where am I going?" thought he. "This is the black goblin's fault, I am sure. Well, if the little lady were only here with me in the boat, I should not care for any darkness." Suddenly there appeared a great water rat who lived in the drain. "Have you a passport?" asked the rat. "Give it to me at once." But the tin soldier remained silent and held his musket tighter than ever. The boat sailed on, and the rat followed it. How did he gnash his teeth and cry out to the bits of wooden straw, "Stop him! Stop him! He has not paid toll and has not shown his pass." But the stream rushed on stronger and stronger. The tin soldier could already see daylight shining where the arch ended. Then he heard a roaring sound, quite terrible, enough to frighten the bravest man. At the end of the tunnel, the drain fell into a large canal over a steep place, which made it as dangerous for him as a waterfall would be to us. He was too close to it to stop, so the boat rushed on, and the poor tin soldier could only hold himself as stiffly as possible without moving an eyelid to show that he was not afraid. The boat whirled round 3 or 4 times and then filled with water to the very edge. Nothing could save it from sinking. He now stood up to his neck in water, while deeper and deeper sank the boat, and the paper became soft and loose with the wet, till at last the water closed over the soldier's head. He thought of the elegant little dancer whom he should never see again, and the words of the song sounded in his ears, "Farewell, warrior, ever brave, drifting onward to thy grave." Then the paper boat fell to pieces, and the soldier sank into the water, and immediately afterwards was swallowed up by a great fish. Oh, how dark it was inside the fish! A great deal darker than in the tunnel, and narrower too. But the tin soldier continued firm and lay at full length, shouldering his musket. The fish swam to and fro, making the most wonderful movements, but at last he became quite still. After a while a flash of lightning seemed to pass through him, and then the daylight approached, and a voice cried out, "I declare here is the tin soldier." The fish had been caught, taken to the market, and sold to the cook, who took him to the kitchen and cut him open with a large knife. She picked up the soldier and held him by the waist between her finger and thumb and carried him into the room. They were all anxious to see this wonderful soldier who had traveled about inside a fish, but he was not at all proud. They placed him on the table, and how many curious things do happen in the world! There he was in the very same room from the window of which he had fallen. There were the same children, the same playthings, standing on the table, and the pretty castle with the elegant little dancer at the door. She still balanced herself on one leg and held up the other, so she was as firm as himself. It touched the tin soldier so much to see her that he almost wept tin tears, but he kept them back. He only looked at her, and they both remained silent. Presently, one of the little boys took up the tin soldier and threw him into the stove. He had no reason for doing so, therefore it must have been the fault of the black goblin who lived in the snuff-box. The flames lighted up the tin soldier as he stood. The heat was very terrible, but whether it proceeded from the real fire or from the fire of love, he could not tell. Then he could see that the bright colors were faded from his uniform, but whether they had been washed off during his journey or from the effects of his sorrow, no one could say. He looked at the little lady, and she looked at him. He felt himself melting away, but he still remained firm with his gun on his shoulder. Suddenly the door of the room flew open, and the draught of air caught up the little dancer. She fluttered like a sieve right into the stove by the side of the tin soldier, and was instantly in flame and was gone. The tin soldier melted down into a lump, and the next morning when the maidservant took the ashes out of the stove, she found him in the shape of a little tin heart. But of the little dancer, nothing remained but the tinsel rose, which was burnt black as a cinder. I hope you enjoyed the fairy tales. And now we will continue with some tag questions, the Christmas tag questions that I found online. And maybe you want to answer them in the comment while I'm answering mine. I would love to hear your thoughts and your answers. So let's go. So the first question is, are your favorite Christmas movies? Okay, first, my favorite Christmas movie is The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. It has been my favorite for, many, many years by now. And it isn't really Christmas if I haven't watched it. And I don't know. Some people might say that it is a weird Christmas movie, but I love it. And it has to be the one with Jim Carrey, of course. I love it. Other than that, I really like, what are they called? Santa? The Santa? The one with Tim Allen? Those I love. Except the third movie, I don't know. I mean, it's okay, but it's not a favorite. Yeah, no. But 1 and 2, I love. Yeah. But number 1, 100% The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. So the next one is, that one doesn't make sense. Well, okay. Do you open your presents on Christmas Eve or Christmas morning? So here in Denmark, where I live, we celebrate Christmas on Christmas Eve, the 24th. So that would be where we will be opening our Christmas presents, except for the last, 10 years maybe. I haven't been getting any presents or given any presents except from our niece, who is 5.5. She is the only one that we buy presents for and that we get a little thing from every year. Other than that, no presents, no giving. mostly because we don't really need anything. And I felt that it was more, exchange of money than anything else. And I prefer spending time with family. For me, it's the time that we spend together that is important. It's not the presents. It's not the I don't know. It's not the exchange. I mean, and also I buy stuff when I need it. If I want a movie or want a book, I get it. I don't save them for Christmas so that I can say, oh yeah, by the way, this movie or this book or this whatever, I want that for Christmas. Because if I want it and I'm buying it. But I know a lot of other families are different, and I bet your family is different. But in my family, except for our niece, there is no presents, and I thoroughly enjoy it. So number 3 is, do you have a favorite Christmas memory? Oh, that is easy. So 6 years ago in 2019, I was told that I was going to be an auntie again. My brother and my then sister-in-law gave us all a sonogram framed and told us, that our niece would be born in the summer. Well, at that time we didn't know that it would be a niece. We just knew there was a baby on the way. And that is literally one of my favorite moments ever, to be told that, yeah, I was going to be an auntie again. And this time it would be a little baby that I would be close to. And because my sister and her kids live like 2 hours away, which in Denmark is quite a distance. So yeah, this time there would be a baby that I would get to enjoy closer. Okay. The next one is favorite Christmas gift, which is literally the same answer. So let's move on. Ugh, favorite Christmas scent. Oh, that is a good question. I think maybe the the scent of fresh baked Christmas cookies, or when we're having the roasted duck or goose. I love the smell of that just coming out of the oven, the crisp skin and everything. Yeah, I think that is those are my favorite Christmas scents. Yeah, and then there is what tops your Christmas tree, and that is a star, a glitter star actually. We bought that. Oh dear, when did we buy that? I think maybe in 2006, when we were to host the first Christmas. I think, or maybe was it 4? No, it wasn't 4. Maybe 2005 or 6, when we were to celebrate and host the Christmas in our home, and we bought that glittery white star, and we still have it, and I love it. Okay. 10. What's the best part of Christmas for you? I think I talked about it in one of the first questions. The best part of Christmas for me is togetherness, spending time with family, being together, having a great meal together. Yeah, that is my favorite part of Christmas, having family time. And let's see, the next one is, have you ever had a white Christmas. I have. And I think maybe even several. I can't give you the years because I have a squirrel brain, so I'd forgotten. But I know I've had white Christmases. Yeah. What is your favorite Christmas song? Okay, so this one is a Danish Christmas song. It is called Nu tændes tusind julelys, which is translated, now 1,000 Christmas lights is how would you explain that? Light, now 1,000 Christmas lights. I don't even know how would you translate that. The light of 1,000 Christmas lights? The lighting of 1,000 Christmas lights, maybe. I don't know. But it is an amazing song. I can sing you a bit of it, maybe. I'm not a great singer, so I'm sorry. Hang on. Let's see. Okay, I just needed the text. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm a horrible singer. I have a horrible voice, but let's do this. Nu tændes tusind julelys, det stråler på vor jord, og himlens stjerner blinker ned til lille og til stor. And then it goes on, and that's about, I think that's enough for you guys to listen to my horrible singing. Let's see. Oh, this is, can you name all of Santa's reindeer? Okay, let's see. We have Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Donner, Blitzen. I am missing one. Oh, Cupid. Yeah, and then later Rudolph was added. But yeah, I did it, didn't I? Yay! Is your Christmas tree real or fake? So, it used to be real, but at some point we felt, why keep buying a real tree that in the end would be tossed and burned, whatever, that we didn't want to be part of the consumerism that was, the buying and tossing of a tree. So we decided to buy a fake Christmas tree. We found one that resembled a real tree close enough, and we still have it. I can't even remember when we bought it. Maybe 8-10 years ago. I can't remember. But anyway, we have a fake one now. What do you have? Oh, let's see. What would be your dream place to visit for the holiday season? Oh, somewhere nice and warm. Somewhere where it's warm. I hate the cold. My body hates the cold. Yeah. Somewhere where you can wear shorts, or I don't know. That would be amazing. Whether it would ever happen, I don't know. Let's see. Are you a pro present wrapper, or do you fail miserably? When I was still wrapping Christmas presents, or just, birthday presents, I failed miserably. I am not a very good wrapper. I've never claimed to be, and I will never be. Oh, this is a good one. What made you realize the truth about Santa? Okay, I was 3 years old. Yes, 3 years old. And I was in my bed. I had a stocking on my door into my bedroom. And my parents, said it was Santa coming every night, putting a little thing in my stocking. So one evening, I had trouble sleeping, which, by the way, I still have. But anywho, I was laying there quite still, because I was supposed to be sleeping. And I I saw someone at my door, and it was my mother. And she put something in my stocking. And I clearly remembering sitting up in the bed and saying, "So it isn't Santa that is giving us stuff in our stockings. In our socks, I'm sorry, stockings." Um, and my mother jumped because she literally thought I was sleeping. And she was like, "Oh, yeah, no, it is Santa. He just called me and asked if I could help him out." I'm like, mm-hmm. And as a 3-year-old, I was wise beyond my years, so I wasn't buying it. No, I was not buying that. So yeah, I found out at the age of 3. Lovely, right? Okay, so the next one is decorations. White lights or colored lights? What's your favorite ornament? I actually like both. I love colored lights, but sometimes a white light is appropriate. Like on my Christmas tree, I want white lights. No colored lights, but outside or elsewhere in the house, all the colors, please. I love it. Okay, we have a silly question. Would you rather live in a gingerbread house or a Santa's workshop? Oh, mm, I think I would live in Santa's workshop because I am still a big child. I would love to be able to walk around and play with all the toys, making sure they work, figure out how to make them, and yeah, that would, yep, that would absolutely be my favorite thing to place to live, I think. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so here is what's one thing you'd change about the holidays if you could? Huh, what would I change if I could? Uh, Let me see. Maybe, yeah, maybe I would change people's expectations about this being, about, I think I would change people's expectations about gifts. That you have to get these these grand presents, where everybody's kind of competing with each other about who gives the best, the most expensive oh my God, presents. I mean, I would change so it's more about being together and, celebrate whatever, you know, um, whatever you believe in. Do you believe in, are you a Christian? Celebrate the birth of Jesus, that we're supposed to be grateful for the sacrifices and what he brought to us by being born. Celebrate that. If you are another Christian, then celebrate the fact that we have time together on this earth. Yeah, I think that would be what I would change. Okay, I have another rather question. Would you rather? Would you rather have marshmallows in your hot chocolate or candy canes in your hot chocolate? Excuse me, I want both. Okay? I want both. I love, if over here we call it snowman soup, hot chocolate with candy cane in it and some marshmallows. I don't eat that many marshmallows. I know other people um, put in huge chunks of marshmallows. I don't like that. So, but both, okay? Okay. Would you rather play Christmas games all day or watch Christmas movies all day? Oh, absolutely Christmas movies. Absolutely Christmas movies. That is my answer all day, every day. So, yeah. Next one. Would you rather have Rudolph's red nose or be green like Grinch? Oh, I would have the red nose, thank you. Yeah, no, no. Would you rather be one of Santa's elves or one of Santa's reindeers? Elves, thank you. Thank you. I want to be an elf. So, yep. That is it. Yeah, that is it. I hope that all of you will have a great Christmas and a happy holiday. And also, I would love to wish you all a happy new year. Hopefully, I will see you all in the new year of 2026, where I will be having a few events. But you can look at my channel and find the some more information about these events. And yeah, enjoy the next many, many, many videos. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, everybody. Bye.